So in this video, I'm going to tell you why the Edmonton Oilers are going to miss the playoffs. And this is not some fanboy response because they're not playing good. Last year, I had said the Oilers were going to win the Stanley Cup. And I said that after the interviews that had happened when they lost to Vegas. And I said it after they were 2-9-1 after they had lost to the New York Rangers. And everyone else was saying it was over. My gift is one of my gifts. My gift of genius is to see and understand energy. I understand the energy of things and how they're going to play out. So when most people looked at the Oilers and said, well, logically, they're 2-9-1 and they're dead, I said, they're 2-9-1 because they're going through a particular process. And I said, they're building new neural pathways in their brains, partly because they had installed a new defensive system under Jay Woodcroft. So that's going to take time to rewire stuff. And then you have George Mumford, who was also working with the team, who's teaching them how to flow. So that's why sometimes in the first 17 games, they looked brilliant and great flow and everything. And sometimes they looked like baby deer because they were building new pathways in their brains. To build a new pathway, it really takes somewhere around 21 days. And that's if you're doing it every single day. Now, for most people, they don't do stuff every single day. So it generally takes around 3 cycles, which would be 63 days, to build new pathways. So I had looked at the schedule last year, and I understood the process that they were on. I understood how the adversity that they were going through in the early part of the season was going to help them. And I understood that by day 63, there should be a turnaround. So I said game 17 roughly should be the turning point. I documented this on Twitter, and I talked about this last year in a video that you can find on my channel about the Oilers winning the Stanley Cup. I missed it by a goal, but I'm not in shame about that at all because I missed it by a goal. And really, they were the better team in 5 of the 7 games. They should have won. They didn't, but that's okay. So I'm saying that so you understand that I'm not going off of, well, the Oilers just suck because they're bad. That's not what is happening. Why the Oilers are not playing so good right now is because they're humans. What do you mean? They have played more playoff games than any other team in the Western Conference over the last handful of years. And this last year, they had no chance to miss hockey. When they went to the Stanley Cup final, they went there and then they basically get a month off. They get 2 months off technically, but I mean, they're basically back at training after a month off. So the Oilers are essentially participating in 11 months of hockey and then taking a single month off. Like, if we're really honest, most Oiler fans will tell you they're even tired of watching hockey because it's just been so much. If I told you to go to the same Chinese restaurant for 46 days in a row, you would get tired of it and you would hate eating it because it was becoming so repetitive. That's human nature. Humans need an opportunity to miss things so that they can actually savor and enjoy them. This Oilers team, the one thing they don't need to make a trade. They need to just let it be. Because this team, the most important thing that they need is a very long off season where they can do other stuff than play hockey. The best thing for this team, and what I believe is going to play out, is that the Oilers are, they can make the playoffs. And if management tries to force this and force trades and tries to, give in to market pressures, the Oilers could make the playoffs, but that would not help them. They're not going to win a round. They're not going to go to the Stanley Cup final, and it would actually hurt them in the next couple of years. This team needs a very long off season so that they can have time away from hockey, so that they can miss hockey, so that they come back very hungry and hungry to get going. If the Oilers miss the playoffs this year, I believe they're also going to have a top 10 pick, which means they can use the pick that they traded to Philadelphia because it was top 12 protected. That would be a great thing. They could trade away guys at the trade deadline and recoup some draft capital, which also would not be a bad thing long term. They can then turn around and re-sign said players in the offseason if they want to. But this team needs a break. They need a chance to miss hockey. And if the Oilers miss the playoffs this year, and have a top 10 pick, I believe that they will win the Stanley Cup in 2 of the next 3 years. This team is very talented. People talking about giving up on Evan Bouchard and, needing to trade everyone. And you need to be able to read the energy and see what's actually happening so that you respond appropriately. Most people react to stuff. They don't respond, they react. They react because they get emotional, because something happens, it triggers something in them, and then they react. When you have somebody who can sit back, read the energy, and actually understand what is going on, then they can respond properly. So this is a lesson also for coaches, managers, leaders, CEOs, people that are leading. You need to learn to respond rather than react. The Oilers could react, and they could make a bunch of trades, and it's really not going to help. The number one thing this team absolutely needs is to miss the playoffs, have time away from hockey. I know they're going to say, well, we hate that, and it's going to be the best thing for them. What's the difference between them and Florida? Florida can... Florida's made it to the finals 2 years in a row. Florida does not live in the northernmost climate of any NHL team. Okay, in Edmonton, there's very little sun exposure that people get, like 4 to 6 months of the year. In Florida, that is not a problem. So when you understand the benefits of sun exposure and how it actually charges and energizes a person and their cells, that's my opinion. I'm not a scientist, but just my opinion. Florida gets way more sun, and the players get out in the sun way more, because you hear them how they talk about walking to the practice rink and all this stuff. That's a factor here too. So the Oilers should just miss the playoffs, and if they do that, I honestly believe they're going to win the Stanley Cup 2 of the next 3 years. And that's not betting advice, but let's see what happens.